everybody. Welcome to Geek Out with Government Games. I'm your DJ for this evening, Liz Newberry. Welcome, welcome. I'm joined today by an all-star panel of government employees. That's right, we do exist, and we're here to talk to you a little bit about games. I'm from the Woodrow Wilson Center. I'm the director of the Serious Games Initiative, which means there is a hope out there for anyone who wants to get into both government and gaming. You can have a fancy title like me someday. And then I'm also joined on this panel by my colleagues from the Smithsonian and the National Endowment for the Arts. Ruben, did you want to introduce yourself really quickly?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Ruben Brenner-Adams. I'm an interactive developer at the Smithsonian Science Education Center.
And then Cody, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, why not? Yo, everybody. My name's Cody Coltharp. I'm also a digital interactive designer, and I'm at the Smithsonian Center for Learning and Digital Access. And I'm here with my cat, Leonardo, and he might jump in on the call.
Yeah, I'm hoping my dog doesn't also make himself known. But then we're also, to round us out, we have Lakita.
Hi, everybody. Lakita Edwards. I'm with the National Endowment for the Arts, and I'm in the Arts Education Division of the NEA.
Great. And so now the dirty secret for this panel is that everyone in government doesn't know each other, but we are all part of a community called the Federal Games Guild, which isn't any formal structure. We're just a bunch of govies, folks working in various parts of the government who are interested in amplifying and using games for meeting our mission goals. That's going to vary widely depending on the agency. We have a wealth of different agencies who are represented and other sorts of federal entities that are represented in the Federal Games Guild. Everyone from living memorials like myself from the Woodrow Wilson Center and the Kennedy Center to folks from name your alphabet soup, really, the NSF, National Park Service, etc. We all take a little bit different approach to games, and one of the things we wanted to talk about today is these different approaches. If I can use a loose metaphor here, we're kind of, not to humble brag, but we're kind of like Captain Planet. No, I'm really kidding. I just wanted an excuse to sneak Captain Planet as a reference point into a PowerPoint presentation one day. But we all take a little bit of a different approach to games, no matter what we're orienting, whether it's science, whether it's policy education, whether it's health education or education. No, I'm kidding. So we all take a little bit different approach. It depends on our agency. And we all take a little bit of a different approach in terms of what we actually do. So some of us design games, some of us fund games, some of us use games just out of the box. But we all believe in the power of games to help engage and excite people in whatever we are doing. So for myself, I'm from the Woodrow Wilson Center, which is a federal think tank located in Washington, D.C. We focus mostly on international policy, but one of the things my initiative, the Serious Games Initiative, focuses on is really not just talking to Congress and other sorts of decision leaders, but how can we engage the public in critical public policy discussions? One of the ways that we've done that is, believe it or not, we've gamified the federal budget. But that series, the Fiscal Ship series, Budget Hero, that's just one of the things we do. We do a lot of public outreach through gaming. So we develop everything from board games to broad scale digital games like the Fiscal Ship, which is at fiscalship.org. You'll also be able to see our other presentation, which is, Ruben, what's the date again for that?
That's going to be the 16th at 10:30 a.m. Pacific time.
Right, and so you can join us there. We're going to do a little bit of a deeper dive on some of these games for the presentation. This is really more of an opportunity to kind of see like the full scale of different things we do. So we do a lot of public-facing games at the Wilson Center, and then we also do a lot of engagement through gaming, mostly board games or live action role plays for decision leaders themselves, which is whether it's NGOs or whether it's members of Congress who we develop games for various topics. So whether it's environmentally based games, federal budget based games, or defeating disinformation, we take a wide scale approach to transforming public policy into a game-based and engaging experience. And one of the reasons we do that is because we know that games can really help underscore the learning process. We can help make something that you wouldn't normally want to engage with very exciting. I don't know the average person who's just sitting around going, you know what I really want to learn today is I want to read a 25-page policy brief on the federal budget. I mean, we do. That happens, but not the average person. So our games are designed to sort of engage and activate on that platform. The other thing I do, especially important, because a lot of folks in the Federal Games Guild do this, is we talk about games. So I actually have a PhD in gaming. You too can make that Minecraft really go to work for you. But one of the things that I help to amplify and to really sort of showcase the power of games is to write about them, to present examples that can be used in different policy contexts. Or I also put on events at the Wilson Center. The Wilson Center is what we call a convening space. So we bring different people together to talk about major issues, whether that's esports, which I showcase here, or how to use games in the Arctic. We like to be a sort of a bridge between those who are thinking big thoughts, so like academics, industry, et cetera, and those who are actually implementing them through policy. So for example, Congress or other forms of international government bodies. This is just one approach though to games. We're going to hear a couple different examples from our colleagues here. And one of the things I wanted to say is that this is going to be a whirlwind experience. So please feel free to tweet at us and or email us or carrier pigeon any questions to us if you don't get an opportunity to ask them in the chat. And we look forward to hearing how you approach games and what you're interested in learning more about from government spaces. But in the meantime, I'm going to pass the baton on here to my colleague, Ruben. I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you for bearing with our COVID-esque implementation here. So Ruben, if you want to take it away.
Sure, yeah, thank you, Liz. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some digital science products from the Smithsonian Institution. I specifically represent the Smithsonian Science Education Center, and my colleague, Cody, is going to be talking after that about some of the products that are available from the Smithsonian Center for Learning and Digital Access and some of the programs that he has from around the institution. So just to introduce myself again, my name is Ruben Brenner Adams. I'm an interactive developer at the Smithsonian Science Education Center. And I just want to start out by sort of introducing the Smithsonian Institution. Many of you may be familiar with the institution. And when you think of it, you probably think of either the museums around the National Mall, or you think of this building. But I just wanted, and this building is the Smithsonian Castle.
I was going to guess it's Hogwarts, but
yeah,
the red brick
Hogwarts
threw me off.
or the Smithsonian Castle. But I just want to say that the Smithsonian is so much more than just those things. Not only is it the largest museum complex in the world, it's also the largest museum education and research complex in the world. And in addition to those museums, we have 9 research centers, 5 education centers, 3 cultural centers, 21 libraries, and a zoo, all of which are in some way or form open to the public or provide resources for the public for free. And so I am from one of the education centers, the Smithsonian Science Education Center, and Cody is also from an education center, but a different one. So there are so many different parts of the Smithsonian, and it's more than just the museums that many people who come to DC know and love. In terms of what the Smithsonian does, we believe in lifelong experiential learning. And in a normal year, we would reach 11 million through our educational programming in person and 33 million people through museum visits. That's a normal year. Obviously, this is not a normal year, so we've had to adapt some of our strategies, take some of our educational programming online when possible. When that's not possible, we're trying out different avenues and trying to get people as engaged as possible with science, history, art, all sorts of different amazing topics. I'm going to take you a little deeper on what I do. So the Smithsonian Science Education Center is the only Smithsonian organization dedicated to formal STEM education. So that's classroom education in science, technology, engineering, and math. And so we are primarily focused on transforming K-12 education through science in collaboration with communities across the globe. And many of you may have noticed in the past couple of months that primary and secondary education has already been transformed in a lot of really interesting and unexpected ways. And so our goal is to sort of work with the transformation that's going on because students may not be going in person to school 5 days a week or may not be going in person to school at all. And continue to do our work of transforming K-12 education. So the three major ways that we work to transform education. One is our curriculum called Smithsonian Science for the Classroom, and that's our paid curriculum that's sold throughout the US and around the world. Our second is a free curriculum called Smithsonian Science for Global Goals, and that you can see in the middle there. That is based on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and it's available on our website for free. And then the third way is we do generally in-person teacher, educator, administrator, professional development sessions. You can see an example on the right there. Obviously, we're not able to do those in person this summer, but we've transitioned a lot of our programs to online and are able to do professional development that way. I just want to highlight a little bit of what I do and a few games. So I'm on the digital media team. We bring Smithsonian science to classrooms around the world through our digital products. Those digital products are as wide and varied as videos, games, apps, simulations, animations, ebooks, and more. So feel free to check out our website for a huge list of free products that we make available. Most of them are available on web and then also for download on Apple, Google, and Amazon devices. I want to highlight two of them very quickly. One is Tami's Tower, Let's Think About Engineering. It's an engineering design game for young elementary audiences, approximately ages 4 through 8. And in the game, the goal is to get the golden lion tamarin, the monkey on the bottom left, to reach the fruit overhead. But she's not tall enough, so you have to build a tower for her to be able to climb up and reach the fruit. But there is a heavy animal, for example, an Asian elephant, that comes running by and shakes the ground. And so your tower has to be stable enough and strong enough to stand up through that shaking.
Now, Ruben, you have
Yes.
an interesting fact about the different animals that you use in this game too, right?
Yes. So all of the animals come from the National Zoo, which is part of the Smithsonian Institution. And interestingly, we thought kids who played this would be really interested in the golden lion tamarin, the main character, but actually they were especially interested in the American alligator and particularly in the giant panda that we have in the game. So that was sort of an unexpected bonus of making games with awesome animals from the zoo.
And next, you need to put in a baby shark or something to really bump it up a notch.
You know, being from DC, you would think we would have done that, but not yet. Okay, so the other game I wanted to highlight is called Pick Your Plate, A Global Guide to Nutrition. And that is a game about constructing healthy meals for a daily nutrition in countries around the world. So that's using local ingredients, local dishes, and local nutritional guides. So for example, in Finland, you might be looking at the nutrition guide and see that you need to eat a certain amount of fish every single day. And that, I think that's the really cool part about this game, because not only is it having students examine what makes good nutrition, but it's also allowing them to compare nutrition in different countries around the world, and why might Finland value fish so highly historically and culturally. So this is based on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. It goes with that free curriculum, Smithsonian Science for Global Goals. And it is primarily for middle schoolers, but it works for ages 8 and up. So that's about my time. Just want to say thank you and pass it on to my colleague, Cody Caltharp from the Smithsonian Center for Learning and Digital Access.
Thanks, Ruben. And a super introduction to the Smithsonian at large. And I think when people think about the Smithsonian, I think, here, let me load this up here. I think when they think about the Smithsonian, they think about lots and lots of stuff, but more than that, we're keepers of stuff, but we're also keepers of stories. And when we're making games, the biggest part of that is, how do you tell these stories in ways that can be more engaging, or how can we make the things that we have more appealing or more impactful? And so I'm going to show 5 examples of those games. The first 3 are done within my own unit, and the other 2 are done at other ones. But the first 3 that you're going to see are, there's no software downloads, and you just load it up through the web address in the top right. So nothing special needed. They all have closed captions. And the other 2 are apps that are available in the Apple and Android store. So I'm going to jump into it. The first is the Wright's Flight, and you can see the link at the top right. And in this game, you are taking the original Wright Flyer on a simulated flight. And for this, we used a 3D scan from the original flyer and height map data from Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, as well as weather conditions from that first flight. It's a very short interactive. It only is maybe 10 or 20 seconds, but that's what the original flight was. So the next one is the Journey Through an Exploded Star project. And in this interactive, you're going to navigate through a fiery explosion of a star or a supernova. And it's based on real 3D data that this scientist in the bottom right worked on, Kimberly Arcand, and using data collected from satellites that collect it on a variety of spectrums on the electromagnetic spectrum. She created this 3D model, and we put it in a game engine, and it is really, really neat to put yourself in the middle of this star and see this data spreading out across from you. The third project is the Smithsonian Secrets of the Sea, and very similar to Journey Through an Exploded Star, it's also based on the work of a Smithsonian scientist, in this case, Nancy Knowlton, who is a marine biologist who has been working for decades studying the oceans. She's incredibly knowledgeable. And so she narrates a journey through a 3D reef as you try to make the connections between creatures in a ecosystem. And again, it is pretty short. There's nothing you need to download. You just go to the web address and you're able to play it on most modern web browsers.
Hey, Cody,
Yeah.
for the analog card game, they can just download that, print it off.
Eventually,
what does it
yeah.
require?
Yeah, I'm still working on it, but yeah, it's just print and play. So you would go to the classroom activity and download the print and play, and it includes the instructions. It's an engine building game, if anyone's familiar with that type of mechanic and card and board games. And yeah, it's pretty fun. It's all based on the game. It's all real science. Soon, maybe another month, it'll be ready. We'll get there. And so the last 2 are apps. The first one is the Apollo Moonshot app. It's Apple and Android, and it gives you a bunch of different AR experiences through your mobile device. And you're able to bring in the lunar module into your living room and twirl it around and make fake launches. And it also includes some really neat archival interviews and rarely seen footage from that time, as well as artifacts from the vaults at the National Air and Space Museum. And the fifth and last one is the Ripped Apart app from the National Museum of American History. And in this app, you are taking the role of a curator in order to solve a mystery dating back to the Civil War. And it uses actual artifacts from that time. It's a fictional ghost story, but it uses real things, and it's a lot of fun as well. So I am now going to hand it off to Lakita, and thank you for your time.
If you guys have any questions for us, please feel free to put it in the chat, and or again, all of our contact information will be available after the presentation, as well as a resource guide that you can just go to and see all of the amazing things that we've talked about in this presentation.
Great. Everyone, Lakita again from the National Endowment for the Arts. A little bit about the National Endowment for the Arts. We're an independent federal agency, and our funding and our support provides Americans with the opportunity to not only participate in the arts, but to also exercise imaginations and develop creative capacities. Now on this slide, this is actual language pulled from our guidelines. Now you will notice words that you would expect from a funding agency, such as evaluation and assessment. But there are also some words you may not expect, like celebrate, humanity, creativity. The arts strengthen communities in so many ways, and we celebrate that as a national priority at the NEA. So through the arts, there's learning, there's healing, and there's also just thinking differently and critically about complex challenges. So on this slide, this is an illustration of a game that's been supported by the National Endowment for the Arts. And we support video games as an art form. In doing so, we recognize the contribution of artists alongside technologists in creating games. So just thinking about all of the contributions of writers, musicians, dancers, visual artists, storytellers in games. The game Walden is essentially a 19th century rough guide to nature turned into a video game. Tracy Fullerton, a wonderful experimental game designer at USC Game Lab, created Walden as a journey of discovery where you advance in the game through reflection and contemplation. Our sister agency, the National Endowment for the Humanities, has also supported this game. And it's available on PS4, and which is very typical for federally funded games. There is a public outreach component. A part of Walden is that there's actually a free curriculum guide for educators with this game. And I gotta say, for all of the Animal Crossing fans out there, you really should check this game out.
Yeah, if you really, I'm sorry, I've played this game a lot, and you can download it for free if you're an educator. It can play across different platforms. I'm so happy to see it's on PS4 now, but also she wanted very deliberately not to make it Minecraft or survival game. So there's some, you'll have to see like a talk about just that game particularly, but there's a lot of really cool things that go into that game that really make it a unique experience.
Exactly. So in the Arts Education Division of the NEA, which is where I work, we support arts instruction for students and really supporting how the arts can be a pathway for learning, enhancing students' quality of life. One such program I'm happy to talk about is the School of Interactive Arts from Urban Arts Partnership in New York City. And what's really resonating for reviewers of this program is the strong artistic foundations. So not only are students gaining technical skills, but they're also gaining skills in music production, filmmaking, and of course, storytelling. And they are building an impressive portfolio of games that they have created, which they can then use to support their admissions process for some of the top competitive game design schools in the country. So it's just a really impressive program. I also want to share that the National Endowment for the Arts, we also support professional development. So thinking through opportunities that allow teachers, educators, in and outside of the classroom to experience how game design and the arts of games can really transform their teaching. So one such program that we funded from 2014 to 2016 is at Virginia Commonwealth University. And this was through their Current Lab program. And essentially it was a summer games design institute for art classroom teachers. And they would come for a couple of weeks, work closely with VCU faculty, and then throughout the year, get technical assistance from VCU as they're implementing game-based learning in the classroom. And they also developed this wonderful accountability cohort of teachers, which is also important. So I'm showing on the next slide some of the games that were created by middle school students from teachers who went throughout the program. And you can see just the variety of games that came out of that work and just the fun and expressiveness that the students really took ownership of the work that they were doing. And that's it for me. And this is how you can contact us.
Yeah, so just a quick tour of this particular slide. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the journey. We're not quite an Oregon Trail here, but we'll throw you a ticker tape parade otherwise. So here's all of our contact information, where to find us or stalk us on Twitter. I also want to highlight at the bottom list of resources that indicate that's for all of the content that we've developed for this presentation, as well as our second presentation. That's also at PAX. So that's a really good tool for the resources on these games that we've talked about, or funding opportunities that Lakita talked about, and more. We also have a list of, if you're a game developer, funding opportunities at the Federal Games Guild website. It's at the very top. You can't miss it. It's a giant header text of a PDF that we put together across different agencies who weren't able to join us here, but do have funding opportunities for game-based approaches. So without further ado, thank you again so much for making it this far and for talking with us in the chat. And we look forward to connecting soon.